Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the book club. Sunday evening is book club time. And today we have a book which has made waves. And it has made us so proud, hasn't it? This is the first time that an Indian language author has won the International Booker Prize. So the book we're reading today is Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shree. Now you can see that it's a pretty substantial book. So everyone who has read it has put in a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it is a book which is open to multiple readings. Sheena Shahani, who is not here today, unfortunately, but may join us a little later, made up a group, a buddy group, as she called it, of readers. And several of us read the book together, commenting every day on what we had read. And it was such a rewarding experience because we had such insightful reading. And among those very insightful, penetrative readers was Kaveri, who is going to present the book to us, was Shakun, who is here with us today, was Parki, who is also here with us today. So we are looking forward to Kaveri talking about the book. When Kaveri was making her comments, every evening on the buddy group, I realized that she was reading so carefully, reading between the lines, looking out for the vibrations and where all those many little references came from and led to. And Kaveri, I will say it was a joy to listen to your input, because sometimes I was pretty slow and I hadn't quite reached the place where everyone else was. So when I heard about it already from you and from Shakun and from Parki, by the time I came there, I was all alert, to look for that resonance which you had already pointed out. So a great pleasure. Now, Kaveri is an alumna of IIM Calcutta. All these years, she has been in industry, in the corporate world, in management education, and she has been reading. And this is a book that I think she enjoyed very much. And therefore, I'm sure, Kaveri, you have enjoyed putting together your presentation, right?
So, I have, thank you, yes.
Yes, indeed. So over to you. The mic is all yours.
Okay, just give me a couple of seconds. I'll just share this.
So while Kaveri is getting ready, I just thought I would mention what you all know, of course, that the Booker Prize is shared equally by the author and the translator. So I think that gives us an idea of how important the translator's work is. In fact, while we were reading, there were some oohs and ahs about the length of the novel. And we realized that the original Hindi version is much shorter. In the sense, it has fewer pages. So that's quite a fascinating thing, to think about. That, oh my goodness, how come? How come the translator has made it so much longer? And we always wonder, don't we, how much contribution has the translator put in? Translation is a very delicate business. So I think this is something we've all wondered about. I'm sure Kaveri will address the issue, and I think she's ready. So over to Kaveri.
So can you all see this screen right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one moment. Okay, so here is my the photograph I took of my book, The Tomb of Sand, the cover of it, and here we are, the author Geetanjali Shree and the translator Daisy Rockwell, and I think they're holding the UK edition of the book. Now, as Mohini has also referred to, it's such a sprawling saga of a novel covering, in the English edition, the ones we read, more than 700 pages, that trying to get it into, a small presentation is a real challenge. I'll try to restrict myself to about a 30-minute presentation so that we can then have some discussions about it. And keeping in mind that a lot of us have not read the book, I will try as far as possible to avoid spoilers. So there may well be some gaps in the way in which I will be presenting this. So I'm going to start with a line from the novel itself. Stories and tales are dreams that create meaning as they move along. And this is kind of a beautiful example of the style of the novel, of the fluid, lyrical, abstract, often enormous and amorphous style of writing. To me, sometimes it was just like a contemplation of life itself, or perhaps like an Indian classical music rag, meditative, introspective, but with this novel, with exuberant improvisation and embellishments, always coming back to the main theme, gradually gathering momentum until it sort of hurtled towards its final conclusion. To me, it was also like a work of art, like a canvas drenched with color, sometimes vivid and luminous, at other times subdued and muted, abstract, impressionist, surrealist. It was like a dynamically shifting canvas and landscape as we went through the novel. In fact, particularly the first part of the book is divided into 3 parts, was quite a challenging read in a sense as we went through this. Now, what I'm going to first do is give a very brief summary of the novel. Here we are. Yeah. So this is at its most basic level, a story of an 80-year-old woman referred to as Amma, who recovers from a very deep withdrawal from life following the loss of her husband, only to discard the life she had led so far and to pursue a very different path with renewed zest and vigor. And the other principal character in the story is Ma's free-thinking and unconventional daughter, referred to as Beti, who is drawn into the adventure that Ma embarks on as her mother decides to revisit the circumstances of her childhood and youth with very far-reaching consequences. There is also Rosie, Ma's transgender companion, who features so significantly in the story. And in a sense, she's the catalyst for the last stage of Ma's journey. Now, this is a novel which is replete with literary references. There are references to myths and legends and epics. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata feature in this. There is also a lot of philosophical musing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 3 of these literary references, and I will also add another line, a 4th thing from the novel. And this quartet, to me, collectively represent the essence of what this story is about. So I'm starting with this Urdu poet, Firaq Gorakhpuri, and my apologies, Farooq, if I do not pronounce the Urdu properly. So here it is. Ek muddat se teri yaad bhi aayi na hame, aur hum bhool gaye ho tujhe, aisa bhi nahi. And the translation provided, I have not thought of you for ages, but it's not as though I've forgotten you either. The significance of these words come to us by the time we reach the end of the novel, of relationships that are lost in the mist of time, seemingly forgotten, but the yearning for which never leaves the deepest recesses of our hearts. And the next one, Fairs, of course. ये वो शहर तो नहीं जिसकी आरज़ू लेकर चले थे यार कि मिल जाएगी कहीं ना कहीं. This and the translation, this is not the dawn we had hoped to discover, my friend. When we set out, sure we would find it somewhere. The poignancy of these lines comes to us again and again as we go through the novel, of people and lives. And, a lot of this novel is all about us and our collective consciousness of how we may seek to soar and to fly and try to achieve our destiny. But we are brought back to earth by the reality of our existence, which often overshadows the lives we had sought to live. And we may be left then with an elusive sense of the loss of what might have been. And then Jorge Luis Borges, who Shree refers to more than once. Incidentally, he has written a short story called The Book of Sand, which has an inexplicable India connection, but otherwise has nothing in common with this book. They just share the sand, the name in their titles. But what Borges and Shree seem to share in common is their question about what is real and what is illusory, about which is the object and which is its reflection, of the diffused boundary between dreams and reality. But the Borges quote that I'm going to choose is about something a little different. He observed that the world is not fully knowable. To paraphrase him, this novel reveals that no one's life is fully knowable, not even by their nearest and dearest ones. And Ma, the octogenarian protagonist of the novel, referred to variously as Amma, Bhenji, Mataji, Baji, manifestly demonstrates the truth of this. And finally, this line taken from the novel itself: live, Ma, live to your heart's content. This is what Beti, Ma's daughter, had fervently wished for her mother, not knowing what this would eventually lead to. So now I will come to the major characters of the story. The three I have already introduced, and it is a novel dominated by women: Ma, Beti, and Rosie.
That bed made all the difference, no? And that placement of the bed is the best place.
Ma's companion. The other characters of note are Bade, Ma's son, 10 years older than Beti, and his family consisting of his wife Bahu and his two sons, Sid, short for Siddharth, and the serious or overseas son. He's referred to by this description because he's apparently never learned how to smile, and he currently lives overseas. So he's referred to either as serious son or overseas son. And last but not least, there is KK, who is Beti's significant other, her live-in companion. Now, if we look at the list of characters here, particularly those who are in the family, we are struck by the fact that Shree chose to refer to them by their relationship identifiers, by their family relationships. And we wonder, is this an indication that she considers that our family lives are what really determines our identities and all that is important in our lives? The answer to this question is provided by the author at the end of the novel. So now the narrative style, it's very distinctive, does not follow a conventional storyline of a linear narrative, or indeed any tightly developed plot. It is said to be the defining contours of the story are very ambiguous. We only know that it is set in a North Indian city, I beg your pardon, in contemporary times, but it's not just its geography, it's the relationship between the characters, of how their connection developed. A lot of this is left ambiguous. Indeed, the end itself is somewhat indeterminate. It's as if the author wanted us to form our own perspective of what the novel is about. and of what the ultimate ending is. So it is also characterized by a dynamic shifting of perspectives as it recounts the impressions of the different major characters. It is very creative in terms of grammar, economical with punctuation, rules of syntax. It dispenses almost with dialogue. And so therefore, a lot of the story is an exploration of the inner world of its characters, of their minds, of their thoughts, of their feelings, of their perceptions, of their opinions. And there is such extensive wordplay. Now, some readers find this tiresome. The translator Daisy Rockwell has mentioned in a note at the end of the novel that for Shree, the words themselves, the alphabets which make up the words, are the least of what she draws from them. Their sound, the dhvani, the word dhvani, is what is very important to her. And apparently the seemingly random alliteration that she indulges in so often, to her has a resonance with the narrative and what it is trying to say. The tone is always light-hearted, not always, I beg your pardon, but generally light-hearted, whimsical, almost playful, and yet when the time comes, it plumbs the depths of tenderness and poignancy. It is rarely judgmental, critical, or uncharitable. There's just one chapter I remember where Shree seems to be exasperated by the shallow mindset, the indifference to the environment, the crass commercialism of the average resident of the major cities in India. And occasionally she has this, she comments on the patriarchy, the sense of patriarchy and entitlement of the typical Indian male. But in general, the story is very warm and non-judgmental. It is also very eloquent in the use of language. It is liberal in the use of metaphors. It employs anthropomorphism, for example. Shree feels that the walls and doors carry memories of those who lived within their confines or crossed their thresholds. It has strong elements of magic realism, embraces the stream of consciousness approach. It believes very much in the empowerment of women. And of course, last but not least, it is a partition story, but not in the conventional political sense. Rather, partition is a metaphor where often we hear of the borders and the barriers that sort of appear through the lines of the stories. And partition really, in this sense, to Shree was more in the devastation that it causes in lives, in the story, in the families who are torn apart. So I will now come to part one of the novel. It's divided into 3 parts, and part one, in a sense, is possibly the most difficult for many readers to grasp, because it is so abstract. There are so many different stories which seem to come and to coalesce together and only to part again. There's it's almost as if the author is, it's her mind, wherever her mind is taking her, she is following that path. And by the end of the first part, we're not very sure where the tale will go. So this is Ma's back. Of course, the family is described very clearly in this part, and their lives. So it opens with Ma lying in her bed with her back turned to the doorway, in a state of such a deep retreat that her family despair at ever being able to engage with her again. And she's living in the house of a civil servant son, Bare, whose family I have already mentioned. And Bare is gruff and officious and opinionated, himself at a very significant transition in his life, being on the verge of retirement. And imagine our surprise when this, so starchy bureaucrat's main preoccupation now is how he will be able to transfer his beloved chrysanthemums from his Sarkari bungalow to the much smaller flat that he will occupy. And so there is this vulnerable aesthetic side to him. And there is Bahu, who it would be easy to dismiss superficially as someone just confined to, domestic concerns and her family and television and that sort of, but Shree would have none of it. And through the part one and through different levels, she establishes how much depth Bahu has. This particular reference I'm mentioning is where Shree comments on how Reeboks have transformed women in India. So the serious son who has a special connection with his mother, cares deeply for her and thinks about her, he gifts her this pair of Reebok shoes. So, and these literally or metaphorically enable Bahu to cross the threshold of her domestic life, to learn yoga, to become a yoga practitioner and a teacher, and to learn salsa dancing, and her life is changed. The relationship between Bare and Bahu is touched upon with a very wry sense of humor by the author, where she observes how their married life has evolved from the stage when they were each other's misty-eyed darlings to where they are now the sort of glare at each other as duffers, and they spend more of their time in bickering and disagreement. This is also the part where the character of Beti, the willful and headstrong daughter born 10 years after Bare, is described with such tender indulgence by the author. It's almost as if she has a special soft corner for Beti. And the relationship between mother and daughter is beautifully portrayed, with Amma, understanding her daughter's contrarian nature and her need to be able to spread her wings, opens this window to the world beyond so that Beti can reach for the stars. Sadly, the relationship between sister and the indulgent elder brother deteriorates from indulgence on his part to censure and criticism, and on hers to defiance, since she just chooses to lead a very different kind of life to the conventional roles that women normally fulfill. Amma's family is considered by the author to be as colorful and as fractious as the families in the Mahabharata. And Rosie now enters the novel, but not very prominently. Her major role will be in the part 2. So then Ma slowly emerges from the sands of her self-imposed samadhi. And as she comes out of it, she is, already, full of beans, having perceived herself. She comes out of it as literally with a bang, perceiving herself for a while as a kalpataru, a gift giver, helped by the wand that the overseas son had given her, which has these magical properties of being able to have butterflies and rainbows emerging from them. So she's waving the wand and gleefully giving away all the possessions in her room. And her family are so happy to have her back that they just overlook this. But what Ma does not give away is her heart of stone. And we come to know about this 5-inch statue of Buddha, of an emaciated version of Buddha, which she has, which the entire family reveres. It's obviously a very ancient little statue, and it's very dear to Ma. So it later, of course, emerges that the statue has a very significant link with the past. Ma has several other plans up her sleeve, and she suddenly disappears, and she is found missing, and the Buddha statue along with her. And the family are frantic. They cannot imagine where an 80-year-old woman could have gone. Ultimately, she is located in a police station, lying contentedly in a fetal position, and a tenuous link to an aspect of Ma's life seems to have emerged almost in passing in the interaction that she has in the police station. And she does this more than once, as she slips in these cues which point to Ma's life and the path it may take. And if you're alert, we will notice it as we go along. Of course, Ma has decided now that she will pursue a very different life to the one she had, which was constrained by conventional domestic roles. And in a major departure from social custom, where a widowed mother is expected to spend the rest of her life working in her son's house, she decides that she's going to move in with Beti. Of course, her son and daughter-in-law are aghast. They're so upset. They're so unhappy because they think there's something that they had missed out on for Ma to have decided to abandon their house. And here I want to quickly show you this, this emaciated version of the Buddha statue and the legend from which it is drawn. And this has a connection with the title of the story. And this is actually a depiction from a Tibetan tanka. So there is Buddha, and as per the legend, he went into this stage, actually, accurately, it would be in the Bodhisattva stage. He went into a period of deep meditation, almost in a trance on the banks of, on the sandy banks of a river. And indifferent to everything around him, he was gradually covered by sand. All he had was a single, I think, grain of cereal every day. But the sand was, of course, transient. And then he emerges from it and decides to submerge himself in the river, which is where Sujata, the woman who's being shown here, the daughter of a cowherd, sees him and comes rushing to offer him a bowl of milk and rice. So here this metaphor of the samadhi that he was in, the temporary nature of it, the sand which covered him, which is part of the title and the Ma's own experience, as she withdraws from the family, apparently in grief at the loss of her husband, but that is the time where she's reevaluating her life. And when she emerges, she chooses a very different existence. So then this brings us to the end of the first part, which I said was perhaps the most challenging for a reader to go through. The second part falls into a much easier rhythm. It's about the life of the interaction and the relationship between Ma and Beti and Rosie. The title that is given to it is Sunlight, and the symbolic significance of sunlight is straightaway apparent as a strength-giving, energy-giving force, energizes Ma's new life in Beti's house. And as from the novel, Beti becomes the mother and made Ma the daughter. So Beti is so happy to have Ma with her. And she's worried about the time when Ma has been away. Ma seems so exhausted. And it's as if Ma is now her child. And she looks after her, takes care of her bathing, her clothing, her meals, her sleeping. And it's in the beginning, Beti cannot sleep a wink herself because she's so worried that Ma will fall off the bed. What will Ma need? I must be there to be around her. But Shree always has such a beautiful insight about relationships. And for all the magical paths her stories take, she shows here that this sort of a stage of Beti's wonderful experience of having Ma with her cannot always last. And as Ma grows in terms of stature and strength, Beti seems to shrink in comparison. And there are so many changes that she realized she's had to make in her life. She was a free spirit. She lived life according to the way she wanted. Here, Ma takes over her entire existence, the management of her life. People come and go. Beti no longer has the solitude that she once sought. And for her now, this is becoming a burden that she has to learn how to deal with. Beti's relationship with Keke also is so disrupted. And Rosie, referred to by Beti as Rosie Bua, becomes a regular visitor and Ma's closest companion. And Rosie's character is shown so beautifully by the author, you know, the bold and brassy and kind of overconfident person with a sardonic sense of humor, full of josh, constantly giving Ma, amusing tales and keeping her lively, taking her out, giving her things to do, and even changing, suggesting to her that she changes her mode of clothing. And Ma, who was always seen in a sari, decides now that, this is too troublesome for her to wear. And Rosie arranges for her to have a gown made by Raza, the master tailor. And Ma then wears that garment, which is somewhat like a gown. So there are so many changes which are coming into Ma. Beti, who always considered herself liberated, is unprepared for her discomfiture at Rosie's regular presence in her house, nor for her resentment at Ma's obvious affection for Rosie and her indulgence of her. And then Beti is left wondering at, was she really as liberal as she had considered herself to be? Who am I, she asks herself. And Bari is not to be forgotten. He is so upset at his mother having left. The rag of grief is playing in his heart. And now retired, sadly missing his mother, unable to express his feelings, unwilling to go to his sister's house. So he comes to this place. He finds a tree which is very close to Beti's flat, and he stands over there watching his mother. And unknowing, not aware of the fact that this tree is the abode of a group of crows who are infuriated at this invasion of their house by this wingless wonder, as they refer to him. And then they have this council of crows, the parliament of crows, who analyze what they should do. They are initially extremely antagonistic towards him, hostile. And then as they realize the pain in his heart, their perspective of him completely changes. They become so worried about him. And later on in the story, there's a crow always seeming to be there with Bari at different stages of the story. They even interpret the multicolored dream that Bari has as he sort of drifts off, dozes off, and thinks of all the many saris he had gifted Ma with, and he's surprised that she's no longer wearing saris at all, and she wears this strange garment like a gown. A girl going on 16, not an old lady going on 80. This is what Beti is now thinking about her mother. She is so transformed. It's not just the clothing which she has changed. Her food habits have changed. She has started taking sips of beer and wine from Sid whenever he visits. And when KK offers her cognac, she's willing to sip the cognac, though she adds honey to it. And Beti is nonplussed by this amazing change in Ma's life. And we are all lulled into this rhythm of Ma's new life with Beti and with Rosie as a constant companion until disaster strikes. I cannot talk about it without giving away a major part of the story, but it is something which the effect of which is felt by all the family members and particularly by Ma. Ma, numb from her feeling of desolation, slowly declares, I must go, cross the border to Pakistan. The family is aghast. Why Pakistan? And there's a very nice way in which Shree again shows how families typically react in a time like this. Yes, of course, Ma wants to go abroad, and they're thinking if this makes Ma happy, why not? At this stage in her life, she wants to go abroad, why not? But why Pakistan? There's Shanghai and there's Singapore. And what about Paris or New York or London? There are so many European cities we can take Ma to, and well, at a stretch, we could even take her to Australia. And Bahu can go with her. And while all this is going on, Ma makes it clear that she will go only to Pakistan and with Beti. And nothing anyone can say can dissuade her, not Bari, not anyone else. So then the family decides that, well, if Ma wishes to go to Pakistan with Beti, so be it. And they set about trying to get her a visa. And fortunately, Bahu was taught yoga to the Pakistani ambassador's daughter. And so a visa is quite easily arranged. And here is Ma, as though she had removed all her layers, one by one, wife, mother, aunt, this, that. Now at last, she was simply herself, untouched by the thoughts and concerns of any other. And at 80, Ma had turned selfish. So here is the family's perspective. And just the previous thing is Ma's own feeling of where she has finally reached. So we are then in the last part, and this will be very brief because I would just give away everything on the novel if I dwell too much on this. So it begins with the author passionately challenging the futility of borders. And in this chapter, she sort of very biting satire she uses, commenting on the strutting soldiers at the borders, the hysterical nationalism, aggressive patriotism. And it's clear that the author has no time for all this nonsense. To her, borders, if they should exist at all, should be for bringing people together, not for driving them apart. But she also uses this chapter to pay homage to all those authors who have written about partition. And I must tell you, I had no idea about all of them. So she refers to Bhisham Sahni, to Intezar Hussain, of course, to Manto, to Joginder Pal, to Raza, and then Krishna Sobti, Khushwant Singh. And she picks up little bits of their novels related to partition, and she introduces them into story to ridicule this whole rigmarole of the border. The river of life is this term then that Geetanjali Shree uses for the Grand Trunk Road, this historic highway which has been around for more than 2,500 years, witnessed the history of our country, and now, unfortunately, one day will cross into Pakistan because our country has been divided. And the Grand Trunk Road has also been witness to partition, to the carnage then, to the bloodshed that took place, to the lives that were lost, to the devastation that came and families that were torn apart. And then they make their journey through Pakistan, Ma and Beti. And Ma crosses the border carrying her heart of stone that goes with her. And as they travel through Pakistan, eventually reaching Peshawar, Beti finally realizes with total shock how little they all knew about their Amma. And in this last stage of Ma's journey, there is finally the acknowledgement of a sense of identity buried in the sands of time, of rediscovery and of redemption for this unlikeliest of protagonists, Amma. And despite the lightness of touch, the poignancy of an existence so long denied, of a heart which finally decides that it is never too late to follow its own path, we are almost overwhelmed by the tenderness and the devotion that is revealed. And what is the underlying philosophy of the story? And I'm ending with this. Anything worth doing transcends borders or barriers of gender, of religion, of countries, of socially sanctioned norms and roles, of age-appropriate behavioral conventions, of taboos and restrictions that condition and entrap us. The novel also suggests that in the course of living our lives, we may someday find our way to the path of what might have been. If it is important to us, we should not let it elude our grasp yet again. And I will end here and stop sharing. So here we are.
Excellent.
Open to
Very nice. Very, very nice. Kaveri, brilliant. I
Very
enjoyed
good.
it thoroughly. The way you have, encapsulated the entire voluminous book into such beautiful, segments. It's like I have reread the book through you. Very, very well present.
It's truly, because there are so many complications and
Yes.
there's so much veering away, so much meandering. It goes here, then it goes there, and you wonder where is the novel going? And you have managed to simplify the complications in your telling. So that must have been very hard.
But that simplification is not completely simplification. It is leading you to somewhere else, but you are not quite sure where is everything going to, what is happening around, which I liked the way that Kaveri talked about.
Of
And
course.
Kaveri, my heart
Hi.
goes out that this has been the story of India for too many long years, and we need to live with that and go further up there. That's how I
Yes.
look at it.
Yeah, we need to adopt her philosophy.
Yeah, in fact, I've taken a screenshot of your last slide.
I was about to take a screenshot when
I've taken it, I'll share it with you.
do that, Shakur. Do that, Shakur.
Yes.
It's so very important in life, and this
know,
is
in
what
all-
we lack in our life today.
Yeah.
What is happening around us, we forget that
Yeah.
this can be done. Really make some important. I forget the awards, etc., but it makes an important need. Someone came running into our house. That's Moini.
Yeah, and somehow in all her interviews and things, what comes across is that she has such a pluralistic kind of worldview, and she refers to the polyphony of voices that inform her sense of what is important, and she does not believe in only this or that, and particularly she has no use for these so the subdivisions that we ceaselessly seem to affect our living with.
Kaveri, I usually make a list of all questions I want to ask.
Yeah.
Here are the questions I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
He hasn't got any.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I was just
Kaveri,
listening, lost in thought about the whole story, about what is happening around us. And it's us. This is India. This is not just India, it is the world. That is what is happening around us. That is it.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
That because, this is true of me, it may be true of many others present here today, that we read more in English than any other language. And therefore we're somewhat unaware of where the literatures of other languages are going.
Right.
What styles, what attitudes, what forms of narration they're adopting. And I somehow thought, now no rhyme or reason, you give me a big whack for this prejudice if you like, but I thought, a Hindi writer can be so modern, can be so wide open,
True.
so modernistic.
Yes.
I was surprised. Of course, why should I be surprised? Why on earth should I have been surprised? But I'm afraid I was. And I was so impressed that she can have such a wide angle lens, and she can have so many possibilities, to her narrative. And I use the word simplify, but of course Satish corrected me. It is far from simple, this novel. So there's no way that you can simplify it. I found it very fascinating in the way that it can accept plurality. It doesn't have to say one thing and not the other.
Yes, and in her depiction of Rosie, the duality that she represents, she shows that with such startling clarity of the fact that she's a transgender and she has more than one identity.
Yes.
Mo, can I
Really
interrupt?
amazing.
I'm going to ask everyone, please unmute yourself. Don't shout and yell. Unmute yourself and let us see you. I would like Wispy to talk. She's been waiting around there.
Yes.
Wispy, please go ahead and say what you have to
Yes,
say.
let's see everyone again.
Yeah, I actually, I would like to ask Kaveri, because I don't know whether she commented on the title, Why Tombs? So
On the title.
Wispy, can you talk a little louder?
yeah, sure. I wondered about the title.
Yeah.
Tomb.
Yes, the Hindi novel was called Ret Samadhi, which is a samadhi of sand. And Geetanjali Shree is on record as saying that she was unhappy with the fact that the English novel was referred to as tomb. The translation referred to it as tomb, but because her publisher as well as her translator felt that that was the closest they could come to, expressing it. They didn't want to use the term samadhi in the title itself. They chose tomb. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not appropriate because it's referring to a sense of a period of transcendence that Ma undergoes as she is reevaluating her life. And so samadhi absolutely is the right word to use and not. But because she said of sand, the transience of that is then established, that it's not a finality of death. Geetanjali Shree also has a beautiful way in which she describes death. It's just stepping across a border. That's how she describes
Latika?
No, just repeat that last line.
About how she describes death as just stepping across another border.
I mean, I'll ask you a little question which you mentioned, I'm not sure you want to answer it. What is the disaster that happens?
What is the?
We've spoken about disaster.
Okay,
I
if
don't
I
know
may,
Rosie's.
What happens is that Rosie dies.
Yeah, that was obvious.
And Ma is devastated.
And then the connect with Pakistan?
So the connect with Pakistan is basically that Ma spent her childhood there.
I thought it would be that.
She spent her childhood.
But there's more to it. If you read the book, you'll find there's more to it.
Yes.
No, don't tell us.
And the connection
No, I'm
with,
not telling.
the connection with Rosie is also established as one goes through the third part. The third part, in a sense, is kind of condenses everything that we have been wondering about for 500 plus pages. It condenses in a short thing, whatever. As I said, it's a novel which hurtles to its end finally.
The way you've described it, I feel it must have been quite difficult to translate. When you talked of the language, you've spoken about, I don't know, metaphors, you've spoken about alliterations. It must have been fairly difficult to translate, isn't it?
Yes, and I think Mohini referred to the fact that the Hindi novel seemed to have been much shorter in terms of length. I think in the process of trying to
Be true to
explain it for an in English-speaking audience, perhaps a lot more was added. I don't know in terms of content.
That's the thing, yeah.
But the first part is quite fascinating, even though it is so abstract. Part one.
Yeah.
It's like a mind which is wandering around and picking up one thought and following that, and then another thought comes to your mind and you move in that direction, and then something else occurs altogether, and you're wondering, are all these strands going to come together? What path will the story take? But it's quite fascinating, and her visual imagery is so beautiful. I've kept in my book bookmark at the place where she describes the sun. And the sounds of everyday living, which we didn't pay attention to. It's just beautiful. So
Paki,
if you just listen to those things, you will pass.
Paki wants to say something.
Sorry.
Paki, switch on.
You're on mute, Paki.
Paki.
Mute. Unmute.
Yeah.
There you are. Yes.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that the lyricism of the narrative, you know, the way that stream of consciousness kind of style brings out how the author is really reveling in, you know, allusion, alliteration, so many different, and introducing so many verbal references, you know, to books that she has read, and poetry, and, you know, it makes the narrative so rich and also like woven together, very much like the plot. It all comes together at the end. And for some time you think, where is all this beauty of the prose taking us in terms of the plot? But actually, Kaveri has very well, you know, sifted out from the narrative the main themes and given it to us. And I think that is the beauty, as if the author is actually enjoying the lyricism of her words.
Delighting in her own creativity. That was one thing that I thought she shares with Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie also tends to like
I think
that.
Mukul would like to say something.
Yes, Mukul.
Yeah, Kaveri, when initially when Ma constantly faces the wall, and she, you know, with her back to anybody else who would come, and completely unaware of or not ready to be connected with the rest of the world. If you remember, there is a small, what should I say, a crack in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's then that I felt that when she's trying to look to the other side, and that's where she wants to go. I mean, I don't know. I mean, since this is open to any kind of interpretation.
Yes, that's right.
That's what I thought. That she's trying to see, I'm here, but it's through that crack that I wish to travel to another world. So, you know, and that's what sort of sets her thinking. And then that going to her daughter and Rosie coming back into her life, all that helps her. It's a catalyst to enable her to do something different. That's how I looked at it. So the crack was on the other side, to take her to the other side.
I think Mukul's interpretation at the end, you know, was very fascinating, because it was a completely different story. Like you mentioned, that it is in her imagination that she crosses the wall and goes back to her childhood, which is also another way of looking at the novel, you know, the progression of the novel.
True.
Because the way in which it is presented, there are so many interpretations. Particularly of part one, you know, part one, I mean, it's left to us to decide how we want to.
I would like Dr.
Shagun also wants to
speak. Eraj is there. Then after Eraj, Shagun. Dr. Eraj, Bharucha, you're next.
Well, I'm going to be 80 in a couple of months. I'm wondering where I'll go off. But
no, but if you enjoy,
you know,
Eraj, if you enjoy, I'm 75. I just turned 75 a couple of months back. As soon as you start enjoying life with books like this, etc., it doesn't matter what happens. Enjoy your life because of books. It keeps your life going. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I saw it as a sort of rather complex mosaic of happenings that happens in this person's life. And I guess that's what the author wanted to bring out, because it speaks of gender and religion and the country crossing the border. I guess it's taken us into some sort of a different plane. It's not about really Pakistan. It's about going somewhere else. And she probably chose Pakistan because she came from there. But this is the sort of thing that I guess as you get older, you do feel and see such experiences. I thought it would be very nice, but daunting to read 800 pages. Lovely. Thank you.
Daunting is the right word. It's difficult to think for tomorrows.
Most of
Sanjay, I would like Sanjay to say something, and Mala is the next person.
Arun wanted to say something.
Satish, Shakun had raised her hand.
Sorry.
Let her
Shakun.
speak first.
Shakun, then
Okay.
Sanjay,
Yeah,
and
quickly.
then Mala.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because there was some talk of, the Hindi one and imagery of a person who writes in Hindi or who speaks in Hindi, we all have a certain image in our mind.
True. Stereotype.
Yeah, stereotype. So that is why we find it very interesting. So one good example that I'd like to, give here is that of an Amitabh Bachchan. See, when he speaks Hindi, people pay attention. Why? Because he's also fluent in English. That's my observation, because I was in advertising. So all the creative thinking happened in English. And it was given for translation in Hindi and several other vernacular languages. So the Hindi copywriter never got his due in creativity also. So that was one. And the other one was that I bought the book in Hindi. This Shree Samadhi. And I read it. And I read Hindi. Okay, very frequently. But for me, it was an overhead transmission. And as Kaveri rightly said, it is so abstract and it is splitting from one thought to the other. I was totally lost. And I tried to read about 40 pages. Only I know how I, went through those 40 pages in Hindi. And I couldn't understand a word of what was happening.
My goodness.
And then I joined this English group. And I started enjoying from the second page onwards. I was very much into the book. Mm-hmm. So there's something to be said for the translation, I guess, And then I found, very interesting references, because I've been to Lahore, and when Ma and Beti, they enter Lahore, I could sort of, the Anarkali Bazaar and all that, I could relate to that. But till now, I'm very surprised that why did I not follow Hindi? And why did I enjoy the English one so much? And I've spoken to 2-3 other literary Hindi professors in Delhi, and they all had a similar feeling.
I just wanted to know, is the Hindi very difficult to understand? Let me ask this question.
No,
is it very difficult to understand that Hindi?
No, it is
not. Because I plan to read it in Hindi. So I just wanted to know if it's a good idea.
Not difficult. No, it is not difficult to understand. See, the language is not difficult to understand. The thought, the way she has put them across on paper is, you get lost. You can't connect line A to line B to line C. They're all individual thoughts and sentences floating in the air.
But it's not like that in English. It's not like that in English.
No,
No, Shakun, it's the same in the beginning. It was so difficult to read even the English. I mean, it's so unconnected, that you felt like, okay, I'll put it away, but no, let me plod on a little more. This is how I felt.
But the Hindi one was totally unpalatable, so much so that I still have the Hindi copy. And I don't intend to read it ever. So if anybody in Delhi wants to borrow it,
give it to me.
Are you in Delhi?
No, I'm in Pune.
How many pages is it?
Sanjay Saxena is from Delhi.
I think Hindi is 300 and so.
300 odd.
You want to say something?
Okay, no, I just want to say this one thing.
After this, I think
very
Sanjay wants to speak also after that.
Okay, right. Over to Sanjay.
Sanjay, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I can connect quite easily with what Shakun had to say, because you see, I'm a Hindi-speaking person. Hindi is my mother tongue. I'm from UP, and I was quite excited when I heard about this Booker Prize and all. So I went and spent $600 in a hard copy of this book.
Same here.
And she did better than me. She went to 40 pages. I gave up after 30. Okay. Now, what Kaveri had mentioned, I think that was a brilliant presentation, and I really admire the way you use the language, Kaveri. You're so good at English. You should be an author yourself. Okay, that apart.
Very well. Spoke very
brilliantly, absolutely. But when you say that something is tiresome and amorphous, then you're only one step removed from irritating and annoying.
No, I didn't use the word tiresome. I said abstract. abstract.
So what's
Okay.
wrong with the abstract? Try and understand the abstract part of it. It's worthwhile.
But
I
I mean,
enjoy looking at the abstract.
No, and in my book, this is how I judge a book. I mean, the first responsibility of the author is that the reader should not lose interest. You have to hold the reader's interest. And there I found it didn't work for me. Now, clearly, this is a individual opinion, and it's a minority opinion, because the book must be full of a lot of literary merit, because it has won accolades, it has won awards. So I can quite concede that probably my view is confined to just me, but it didn't work for me. Let me put it this way.
So you didn't read the English version?
No, I didn't read the English version. But I tell you, there's an earlier book I'd read by her. It's a book called Mai. Mai is
How did you like that?
It was brilliant. I thought it was very well written.
Okay.
I quite liked it. That's why I was so disappointed with this one. And Mai is one book that I would recommend to everybody.
Earlier book you read was in Hindi?
Hindi, of course. I always read a Hindi book in Hindi and Urdu book in Urdu and so on.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's good. Great.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm planning to do that also. Let me see.
But you know, one little,
Now the other point that
you know, these major awards which bring forward these writers who we may not have heard of or known or read, they are all English awards where they look at read a book in English. And I remember in Turkey once, some people told me that they didn't think Orhan Pamuk was so good, but he was very good in translation.
I've read Pamuk in English and he's brilliant. I mean,
in Turkish, because he's translated. I think there was a Maureen Feely who translated, very good translator.
Right.
And his books are just...
Now the other point that Mohini was making, that we are surprised why Hindi, that a Hindi person can have such an open outlook on life. So
why?
Why?
No.
I'm a Hindi person.
We shouldn't be surprised, because a person like Geetanjali Shree is really just like us. She's the daughter of an IAS officer. Half her family is in the bureaucracy. She went to convent schools like you and me and most of us. And she went to Jawaharlal University, sorry, not Delhi University. She went to JNU. So we shouldn't be surprised. And that's fairly common. I mean, if Harivansh Rai Bachchan has a PhD on Keats' poetry from Cambridge or someplace, or Allama Iqbal, he had a doctorate in German philosophy. So,
he was a professor of English in Allahabad University.
Right.
He used to teach,
Amitabh's father.
Yeah,
His
that's
father?
right.
Father.
Harivansh Rai Bachchan, yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Now,
So,
by the way, let me just say this. Everyone can slam me. I mean, I deserve to be slammed, but I just confessed the prejudice. You know, I confessed.
No, nobody would slam you.
No.
I think.
But you're 100% right. That is the general perception.
Yeah. Mohini, in fact, I must
writers in India are fluent in more than two languages. You know, so that duality is always there. They're equally proficient in both languages. It's the way that we've been brought up speaking more than two.
Yes, very true. Very, very true.
But in this book, I do feel that Daisy Rockwell has played a huge part. Clearly, what
seems like the translator,
Sanjay has said, you know, the translator's part is huge, and I think she has done a brilliant job.
Yes, absolutely.
To make it so much more attractive, to keep the reader's interest.
Yeah,
absolutely. Make you feel that it's a wonderful book. It's like To Kill a Mockingbird. The editor, I feel, played such a huge part, because when you look at Go Set a Watchman, which was the original draft, and you read To Kill a Mockingbird, which is the final draft, you know, as after all the recommendations by the editor, what a huge difference. So the part of the editor I felt was highlighted there. The part of the translator is highlighted here.
So the 50% award is right.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Absolutely
that's what's given.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask Mala. I would like you to ask a question, and after that, I want Friana to speak about it. Yes, Friana, don't make eyes.
So my question was basically about the Hindi. I mean, this is what I was interested in, is finding out whether I should read the Hindi book. And it seems the consensus is that the English one is much better. So I will go with that. But I really appreciate the way you spoke, Kaveri. It was brilliant.
Yes.
You were so nice to listen to that I rang up a friend, told her to join in right in the middle of the whole thing, and she did. She was very happy to do
Mala, just one suggestion. If you want to read something in Hindi, then if you haven't read Harivansh Rai Bachchan's autobiography, then there are, I think, 6 or 7 volumes. Start with that. It's very,
6 or 7 volumes.
Start with that.
Have a heart.
300 pages are sounding difficult.
But we are always happy when we get a writer.
Latika, everyone, just listen to me. What Shakun said, Shakun, please listen to what we do. At Gyan Adab, we have Hindi authors, etc., which we are talk about and speak about, etc. Please come for those. There will be, with people like you, we will be able to do something better. I'm going to ask now 2 people.
Wispy has her hand up.
Wispy has a hand, and where's that? There's Friana. Friana is there. So Wispy, you first, and then Friana.
Yeah, thank you.
And Farooq Merchant.
Since we were talking about the translator, when I was attending the talk by Geetanjali Shree, one question somebody asked was, how did she choose the translator? And she said she didn't choose the translator. It was the translator who approached her and said, can I translate? So obviously the impact the book had made on the translator must have resulted in her doing such a good job. I just thought I would intervene and mention that.
Okay, I'm going to talk about us, Friana. Friana has been coming to our book club regularly, being very helpful. And Friana, I would like you to be presenting a book in the next 1 month. Okay? No way, no way. You have to do it. Friana, what are your comments? And after you, Leslie, who's trying to hide behind his hands.
So first of all, sir, I'll take you up on that, and I will.
No, sir. No, sir.
I will surely take up a book within the next month, hopefully.
I like the hopefully.
Hopefully.
And what's your opinion on today's book?
For today's book, so I will first be very personal about this. So when the whole reading group sort of started, I joined it very enthusiastically, saying, okay, I'm going to read this book. And that was until my final exams and a very brand new job entered my life, and I was not able to participate the way I would normally. However, I kept tabs on the small discussions that they kept having on WhatsApp, and I kept reading each and every message by everybody. And it was nice to have an insight into something I've not read at all. Today's session, however, puts all of those little messages into perspective for me. And I think the presentation today was amazing. It was brilliant, like everybody has pointed out. But one thing I think that struck me the most, I think it might be a very common interpretation, but I think the fact that Ma towards the end goes back to Pakistan, to something which is associated with her childhood, as we've learned, is probably something like her life coming in a full circle. It is like going back to where you've sort of come from, and you are, it's like, for her, perhaps it is going back to her, the most vulnerable inner self of herself, where she's gone back to being her truest form, and that is in her childhood. Because when we are all kids, it's like that is the time when we are unashamedly what we are. You know, there is no moral filter, there is no expectation. You are just what you are. And I think that is what Ma goes back to, leaving all the expectations out of her in life. And I think it takes death for her to realize that, you know, life is not just the family or the people around you, or you know, trying to find a new you in, you know, just rejuvenating yourself. I think it is trying to find the essence of you. And I think in her attempt to find her essence, she had to go back to where she had come from. And I think that is my interpretation of this book so far without reading.
Friana, thank you very much. And I think Leslie should be the last person. Leslie, please go ahead.
Leslie, you have to unmute.
Farooq has raised his hand, but
Farooq, after that you.
Yeah. So I read the synopsis of this book before I attended this book club. In fact, indeed, this is the first time that I will be saying something on this book club. I've never spoken, at least about the book as such. So yeah, I found it very interesting the way Kaveri narrated this book, and in fact, one of the things that interested me, which I don't know whether it was, and I realized later on that it was not a very prominent part, was this transition of going to Pakistan, this partition part. And I realized now from what is being spoken that it was not a very important part, but it was more of a going back to another kind of a life. Yeah, that's what.
Thank you, Leslie. Mo, Suchita Bharadwaj has been hiding herself. I just got her.
Farooq has his hand up.
Farooq will be the last person to take over everything. That's why I said Suchita.
I want to mentor.
But he has a question.
As a person who wants to ask a question to Kaveri.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Go ahead. Suchita, you have the last person there.
Kaveri, I have got two things to ask you.
Yeah.
One is that how would this Indian author would have met this translator, and how the translator would have understood the Hindi language, which she apparently, I think she doesn't know the Hindi language. How does this thing really work? When a book of such magnanimous level is translated, how would it work, Kaveri? And I've got another question after that, but you just finished.
No, actually, Daisy Rockwell is very proficient in Hindi.
Yeah, she has to be.
She's translated so many books.
Yes, she has translated many books in Hindi, so she's very proficient.
So that answers
that's
one.
taken care of. Yeah.
Second thing is my observation to the conversation which took place, because we have this Guldaste Urdu and Nasima runs this program in Urdu language, and we have lived with the Marathi language in Pune, and we have Sanjay Bhardwaj who contributes to Guldaste Urdu WhatsApp group every day. 3 regional languages, and I'm sure all the languages are very cryptic. And if you do some of the stage plays of Marathi, they can put a lot of things in a small sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said. I agree with you.
Probably where the original Hindi novel must have been so smaller in size, because the indigenous languages allow you to do many things in a very small way.
But I just have this one little suggestion. We're all very happy when we get a writer. I'm sorry, please carry on. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Because I get scared with so many ladies, so so the third thing is, and Mohini, I'm addressing this to you. The WhatsApp group that was there when we did the buddy reading, and the comments that have been there itself is such a fantastic analysis, and coupled with what today Kaveri has put this together, Jnanadam has made a literally a study of this book. I mean, if you bring them together just like that.
Very much so. I was so impressed, by the way these girls, Kaveri, Paki, Shakun, Shakuntala, who read the Hindi. I wish Shakuntala was here today, because she completed the Hindi.
I'll get the whole WhatsApp conversation down onto a word. I will try to bring it like that. And I'll just put it on the book club. Let people read the PDF, the way the conversations take place. How it's just interesting. For me, just cut and copy and put it. I'll just try it. Just see how it comes.
I have also saved all those conversations.
I'll make
it was so illuminating. When you read a book together.
That itself is a 1 month or 1.5 month exercise. I don't know how many times.
I think let's hear Suchita Bharadwaj should talk, and then I'll have the last word. What Sanjay has written, I will speak, say that. Suchita?
Yes, thank you so much. This is my first experience coming to this book club. So please pardon any mistakes that I make.
You don't make mistakes in Pune, in the book club. There never are mistakes. That is what it is.
All right.
Your thoughts are your thoughts.
Excellent. All right. I would like to thank Kaveri ji for her amazing narration interpretation. I think I would also like to confess my personal prejudice towards Indian authors, and I never checked at all. But while she was narrating it, I found myself going to Amazon and immediately ordering a copy of her book.
Very good.
Oh, that's wonderful indeed. I have to tell you, I just love the book. I'm not much of a fiction reader, but I love it.
Yes.
And let's Mo, Farooq and Mo.
Yes.
Even I want to read what Sanjay Saxena has said. Even by the high standards, the very high standards we have come to expect from the book club sessions, today's session was exceptional. Thank you, Kaveri.
Oh,
Thank you,
very
Sanjay.
good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
No,
you
we all
deserve that
endorse this.
compliment.
We all endorse this.
Yes, very much.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
much.
No, I think, I mean, every session here is very enjoyable, and you always end it with a little wiser and better informed, and you feeling good at the end of it, you know. And but I think today Kaveri really excelled. Really, I'm most impressed.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you.
It's always difficult to condense your thoughts about a
Yeah.
very long,
Yes.
complex, and meandering in this.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
a very meandering book.
Right.
Yes,
So
it is.
that's what I meant when I said that you managed to put it together so beautifully and concisely.
And
So
finish
that-
it in 30 minutes, which you said.
Okay, so shall I tell everyone what we're having next time? So
Yeah.
Kaveri, I think everybody agrees that today's session was terrific. We have enjoyed it so much.
Right,
A
thank
really
you so
good book deserves a really good analysis, and this book has got it from me. So you know, it's been absolutely great. So thank you, and thank you everyone who came to listen and participated and express their opinions. Next time we have Mukul Ahmed presenting a book called The Hard Road Out, a woman's escape from North Korea.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yes. And
Okay.
Mukul was kind enough to lend me the book for a few days. So I sort of speed read it. Fascinating. And this is a book that you want to know about. You know,
Yeah,
because as like we were talking about how little we know about other languages. I mean, even we who do, all of us speak more than one language. Most of us speak three, you know, pretty comfortably. But I think we read more in one than the others.
Yes.
But here,
Right.
there are
One
so many
dominates.
countries in the world that we know nothing about. There are so many countries that we know so much about. Possibly we know more about them than we know about our own country. You know which ones I mean. But there are some that we have not explored. And maybe one of the reasons is that they don't encourage exploration. You know, they are closed countries. So North Korea is one of these. And this is such an illuminating book because it tells you things that you cannot know.
Okay.
Right? So we look forward to this, Mukul. Very much look forward to it. Indeed.
May I ask the author's name of this book?
Yeah, it's Jihyun Park. So that's Jihyun. Jihyun Park. Park. Okay.
Thank you.
Jihyun Park, The Hard Road Out. And that is next Sunday, 11th of December. So we're keeping the holiday season free because you know how it is. It's party season and
Right.
etc. So 11th, and then it will be January thereafter that we meet. Right? Okay. So
Okay, thank you.
last word with
Thank
Farooq,
you.
Thank
as
you,
usual.
Kaveri.
Thank you for organizing this.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Let Farooq speak.
Farooq will have the last word.
Yesterday, we had a very good program on the Himalayas, you know, the mountaineering, beauty of mountaineering. The program run by Umesh Zurpe was very fantastic. And we'll be putting that program on the YouTube on tomorrow evening. It's already there on Facebook. And I'll put the link on the book club. Yesterday's program was very good. I request people to hear that program. What we are doing in Gyanpedia next is on the 24th, we are bringing a program on honeybees. And we'll be taking in detail how honeybees, how the colony of honeybees are there and how the queen is created and how the things like that. And this is a knowledge-based thing and bringing up a lot of interest from our Gyanpedia group. We have a separate WhatsApp group called Gyanpedia. If any one of you want to be a part of the Gyanpedia, you can send a message to me or Satish or Mohini. I'll put you in the Gyanpedia WhatsApp group, which is an interactive group. So I suggest that 24th, I know it's a weekend, it's a one day before Christmas, but both interesting program because we are getting some very good specialists to speak on the honeybees.
Okay. Thank you.
From my side.
As Farooq said, if anyone here is not already a member of our WhatsApp group or email group and you would like to be, please do let us know. Okay.
I think Suchitra wants to say something.
Yeah, I'm not a part. Like, I don't know how to stay connected. So can any of you help me?
Suchita, I'll be putting on the chat group my mobile number and you just take it down. 1 minute. I'll just put my mobile number. Just send me a WhatsApp message.
All right.
0962. And we have a very good website called gyanadab.org. So it's there on the chat box. You can just copy it down or take a screenshot. It's on the chat. So on gyanadab.org, all our programs are announced. If you go onto the archives of Gyanadab, all the previous programs are there. And if you go on YouTube and type Gyanadab, that is GYAAN space ADAB, you'll get all our videos. Now there are more than 250 videos. So, and they're all categorized in the playlist as book club, the Gyanpedia and the Guldasta Urdu. So a person like you should be able to search out anything with on that.
Yeah, that's how I think I discovered the.
And if on gyanadab.org, we have an info dot something, Gyanadab something. If you write an email, we get that email and we reply.
All right.
Well, you can put it on my mobile number. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much.
They're also on Facebook, by the way. We are there on Facebook. We are there on YouTube.
Okay, so we bring this session to an end now. Kaveri, thank you so much for a wonderful session, which everyone has clearly enjoyed because they have said so. You need not be in any doubt. And I have a feeling next time is going to be very interesting too. We're going to find out things that we do not know.
I had no idea.
So I look forward to that also. All the best, everyone. Keep reading. And remember, this is a voluntary presentation mode. So when you read a book that you think is significant and other people will enjoy it, please let us know. We are only waiting to hear, who would like to present which book. Okay. I got a letter from someone recently which said, what did he say? He said, how do I convince you that I would present well? And I thought, oh my God, please don't be so diffident. If you have a book that you would like to present, just tell us and we will welcome you with open arms. Okay, so everybody, let me know. We are looking for volunteers. Okay, all the best, everyone.
Both of you are so tough to handle. They think they are very tough people, that's why they want to be.
Oh, please. Really, do I have that image?
Maybe people have.
I hope not.
I mean, Farooq sir is not wrong. Sometimes Mohini ma'am does have that kind of impact on you, especially when you're in her class. As a student, I can vouch for that.
So I'm a tough nut, am I? Oh, dear.
Because you have such high standards.
The velvet glove
Yes.
is coming off. The velvet is coming off.
Oh my God. I need to invest in a new pair of gloves.
Just joking. Take it easy. Chal, bye-bye. Everybody, with your permission, can I close?
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye. See you next
Bye.
week.
Bye.